Welcome back to the KEA Method podcast. I'm your host, Tesseyman, and today we're talking about one of my favorite topics, habits, which is pillar 4 of the KEA Method. This topic is so juicy and has so much involved from dance to your everyday life that we had to break this content into 2 full episodes. Part 1 is going to focus on the science behind habit loops, habit stacking, and the identity shifts that you need in order to find real transformation in your everyday life. Part 2, we're going to dive more into my personal routines and the habits that I love that are really important to me every day that I use and I habit stack with, and so much more. So for today, let's focus on pillar 4, part 1, the science of habits. And don't forget to watch both episodes so you get the most benefit. Let's dive in. Before we dive into the science of what a habit loop is and how to use it in your everyday life, I want to share with you a personal story of why this is so important to me. I mean, every episode that we put up is extremely important, and there's so much thought that goes into it. This one stands out as absolutely essential because it is the foundation for why I ended up creating the KEA method, why I created my 5-day reset for dancers, which is an online program dancers can download to have support at home. It really helped me when I was dealing with a lot of overwhelm. I had all these goals that I was trying to achieve. I felt like I couldn't get organized. I felt like no matter how hard I tried, I just wasn't making any gains. I wasn't improving, moving the dial that 1% further. I just felt like I was kind of treading water, and I started feeling really exhausted and kind of helpless. And then there's this one afternoon. Had been raining in the town that I live in Camden, Maine, for like 30 or 40 days. This was a couple of years ago. And I was determined to get to my gardening and go for a walk, even though it had been raining like constantly. And I put on an audiobook and I found James Clear Atomic Habits. Now, I was familiar with understanding habit loop from Charles Duhigg's book, The Power of Habit, but I felt like this approach that Clear brings in Atomic Habits was mind blowing to me. It totally elevated it to the next level, totally elevated the understanding of a habit loop and how to use it and how to stack habits. I mean, everything I talk about is micro habits, stacking habits, having your daily routines, and how when you have a full day set with all of these routines that are really beneficial and supportive, you can end up habiting yourself into having the best day every day. And even when life gets lifey and things don't turn out right, having a system of habits in place that you can lean back on is essential to not falling apart when things get really tough. So I was listening to this audiobook. I was walking around, and it was like this wonderful personal time that I had of just letting his voice and all of this information and this science and this lived experience that he had run through me while I was walking in the rain around town. And I had like my rain jacket on, and I just became mesmerized. It was like this rhythm, like a heartbeat. And I tore through the book. Then I listened to it a second time because I kept pausing it and like screenshotting it and then going home and like taking notes, and then just having this revelation on how this could completely change my own personal experience and my life and the things that I was excited about achieving that I really couldn't feel like I could move the dial on. But it was like, oh my gosh, this is how I should be teaching dance. This is how I can make the changes I need to make, where I'm seeing dancers needing more support. And up until then, I hadn't quite figured out how to organize that. So I just thought it was really important to share with you my lived experience around this book and around the topic of habits, and that it's so much more than just one cool thing you can learn that can help you get better at a routine that you're doing. It has become like the fabric of my life. Like, I am so supported by my habit system, and I can refer to this book by James Clear anytime. And I think if you're interested in this at all, this episode could be really helpful for you to get a basic understanding of what the habit loop is and how to use it. I really, go through the lens of how it's going to help dancers and how it's going to help your daily life in a bit more of a broad way. If you're really into this, go read the book. Go learn anything you can from James Clear, because he's absolutely brilliant and he changed my life. And one day I'm going to meet him. I'm just calling that out right now. One day I'm going to sit in front of James Clear and say, thank you for completely changing my life. I am, you know what? This is part of the revelation right now. I mean, I know this, but I am who I am today because of the habits that I have in place. My daily life runs on a system because of the habits I have in place. And I understand them better because of the approach James Clear took. So someday I'm going to get to meet him and tell him, thank you for completely helping me to reorganize my life and give me a sense of power and understanding where there was none before. That's going to happen. We're going to see that. All right. So with that said, let's get into what the habit loop is. Now, I really want to do Clear justice. And so I did a lot of, the research that I had done before, and then I went through it again and revamped it to make sure that anywhere that I'm quoting him or using information from his book is accurate. So first, let's understand what a habit loop is. And my goal is to give you this condensed understanding so that you can take this and put this into work into your life immediately. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, argues that small daily habits, 1% improvements, compound over time to create massive long-term results. He emphasizes how focusing on systems over goals, making habits easy to start, for example, the 2-minute rule, which we'll get to, and using environmental design to make cues obvious is beneficial. He describes the habit loop as a simple, repeatable cycle that drives almost all of our automatic behaviors. And in his book, Atomic Habits, he breaks it into 4 stages. And here's those 4 stages. Number 1 is cue, a trigger that tells your brain to initiate a behavior. Number 2 is a craving, the desire or motivation behind the habit. So it's not the habit itself, but it's the feeling you want, the relief or the stimulation or the reward. Number 3 is the response, which is the actual behavior or action that you perform, whether it's checking your phone, eating a snack, going for a run. And then number 4 is the reward, the benefit you get, which teaches your brain whether to repeat it, which is that dopamine hit, that satisfaction, or the thing that reduces stress. So the key idea here is that Clear emphasizes that habits aren't really about the action. They're about the loop reinforcing itself. So the cue triggers anticipation, the craving drives action, and the reward closes a loop and makes it more likely the next time. Over time, your brain starts to predict the reward as soon as it sees the cue. So what's an example? A cue could be you see your phone on the table. The craving is you have the craving to check your phone and to, see who's messaged you. Then the action is the picking up the phone and the opening it and scrolling it. And the reward is the dopamine hit that you see if you got that message or whoever texted you. An example, and this is one that he says in his book, the cue is, if the habit that you're trying to create is going to the gym, it's not just going to the gym, it's the cue that triggers the action of going to the gym. So putting on your sneakers or making your creatine shake. And then the craving is the feeling of accomplishment that you're going to get after your workout. And then the response or the action is going to the gym and actually doing the workout. And the reward is coming out of the gym and saying, oh my gosh, I did my workout. I followed through with it. Even if it wasn't the best workout ever, Clear talks about following through with it and having a bad day that you continue to reinforce the habit loop is better than skipping a day. And he gets into the don't miss 2 days in a row. So according to James Clear, habits stick not because of willpower, but because this loop becomes automatic. Change the structure of the loop and you change the behavior. So now going to the gym feels a little bit more effortless because as long as I make my creatine shake, it takes almost no effort to go into the kitchen and put the creatine in the water and make my shake. But now I've reinforced that that's the cue that I'm going to the gym because I know I have to start working out within 20 minutes of taking my creatine. So that's kind of the thing here is that the gym is the thing that takes the effort, but the cue behind it that triggers the craving is a thing that's going to assure that the response, the action of going to the gym is going to happen. And then no matter what, you're going to get your reward. So how do we relate this to dance? Here are the areas I'm inspired by and how I relate them to feeling better each day as a dancer. And this is kind of fun, the way that I wrote these notes down. It made me feel like it could be more accessible to young people who might not want to talk about habits or science of the habit loop or read a book or even listen to an audiobook in the pouring rain. For me, this feels like we're really delivering something actionable that's accessible. So the first key principle from CLEAR is the power of 1%. So that idea is that by getting better 1% each day leads to becoming 37 times better over a year. Small habits may seem insignificant daily, but they compound, acting as the compound interest of self-improvement. So for a dancer, if you want to get better at your turns, come into the studio and practice your turns every single day with your growth mindset that we talked about in one of our recent episodes, and focus on not just perfecting a turn or doing a triple or quadruple pirouette, but what's one thing you can improve that day? Can you, you know, can your balance improve by 1%? Can your spotting improve by 1%? Can you do some core work and strengthen your core? Can you practice elongating your head up while pushing down into the floor and creating that sense of opposition? You could choose just one of those things and improve just that one thing 1%. And then create a system of every day you're going to come in and focus on a different aspect of turning, moving the dial 1%. And without all the stress and the pressure and the fight or flight that happens, if you have a perfection mindset and you follow the turn and you're like, well, that's it. I'm just a bad dancer. I just can't do this turn. With this 1%, moving the dial 1% further, you're giving yourself the opportunity to just work through it and be in the process. So I love that. The next key principle is systems over goals. So rather than focusing on a massive goal, focus on daily systems. Habits are like the invisible architecture of your life. So instead of we want to have a goal and we want to be focused on that goal for sure. But if I'm more focused on the system I'm putting in place throughout my everyday, then I'm going to get to achieving that goal faster, better, and without as much stress. So if my morning routine is locked in, I make sure my exercise routine is locked in. I make sure that I'm prepping food and my nutrition is taken care of, and I'm taking care of my body and foam rolling, and I have all these little mini systems locked in. Then by the time I get to the dance studio to dance, I'm going to be a better dancer just because of the systems I have in place. That's the architecture of life. I love this. Okay. The next key principle is make it easy. This is the 2-minute rule. Start new habits by making them take less than 2 minutes to do. Like I said with the creatine shake, read one page instead of read the book, or organize one shelf instead of clean the whole house. Fold a basket of laundry instead of organizing your entire closet. Just do something easy and simple. The next key principle is habit stacking, and I have so much experience with seeing this make a big difference in my life. So this says pair a new small habit with a current daily habit. So for example, a habit that you already have, like for example, making a cup of coffee, with a new habit that you want to attach to it. So I always wanted to get better at meditating. There was a time in my life where I wasn't meditating every day. I meditate every single day, no less than 10 minutes. And it's just automatic for me because I'm in this automatic habit loop. So what I started doing after I read this book was I'd put on the coffee machine and I'd get my meditation chair set up, and then I'd get my coffee and go sit, and I'd have my coffee, put on my meditation timer, and there we go. I started adding in habits to this little habit stack. Getting sunlight in your eyes within 20 minutes of waking up, which really triggers your circadian rhythm and boosts cortisol for you first thing in the morning, which helps your sleep cycle. Just a side tangent. That's really good for you. Getting out in nature, journaling. These are things that were really important to me. I really wanted to be a person that read every day. And now notice how I said I wanted to be a person that read every day. We're getting to identity, but that's where that comes in. I really wanted to be someone who meditated, journaled, and read. And I started stacking that next to my coffee. While my coffee was brewing, I stepped out on my porch and looked at the sun, got my coffee, sat down on my meditation chair. I read my 3 daily readers, and then I journaled, and then I meditated. And by the time that last ding on my meditation goes off, I'm ready to start my day. And then I'm a better person for it, because who isn't better from meditating? Okay, next key principle is never miss twice. I love this one. It made me so accountable when I was first going through this and I was seeing how I could redesign my method for my dancers. If a habit is missed, immediately return to it the next day to avoid building a bad habit. So if you're not feeling good, if you're feeling sick, if you're feeling too tired and you can't go to the gym, that's fine, but make sure you go to the gym the next day, because Clear talks about this in his book. And again, he does it so well, where if you start missing one more day or that second day in a row, you're starting to reinforce this bad habit, and you're going to get the opposite of that dopamine spike. You're going to get that dopamine crash because you're not getting the reward, and it's going to start compounding interest in the wrong direction. So he talks about, even if you walk into the gym and you're there for 5 minutes, you have reinforced the habit loop, even though you haven't had the most extraordinary workout. You've mixed your creatine shake or put on your shoes. You've gotten the craving of being that person that goes to the gym. And then you walk into the gym, you're there, you made it. The habit loop is absolutely reinforced in your brain. I've had those days where I go in and I everything feels really heavy. I have to lift weights and they feel particularly heavy, or I get on the elliptical and my mind is just too busy and I'm just not in the mood to get to it. So I leave, and the reward is that I still went, and that's super important. Another key principle, and this is the one I'm particularly stoked about, is the identity-based habits. Focus on becoming the type of person who can achieve the goal rather than just achieving the result itself. But I love the idea of who am I? Like, am I that person that reads in the morning? Am I that person that lifts at the gym? Am I that person that takes time out of my day to help somebody, even though it has no direct connection to what I'm doing? Am I being of altruistic help for other people with a an unselfish concern for others? That's who I want to be. I have a lot of standards for myself of the type of woman and the type of person and the type of partner and the type of teacher that I want to be. And when I build into my life this identity that I am that person, I'm going to more automatically grab for the habits that support that identity being real, being true, being honest. And that is, that's everything. Okay, the last key principle here is environmental design. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't pay attention to this at first. And then after I listened to this book twice, I then bought the book and read the book. I just, I'm excited about this stuff. And it says, make cues obvious by arranging the environment to support the desired behavior. And their example is leaving a book on the pillow. And I have in my meditation area, I have everything stacked up. I have all my daily readers. I have my journal. I have my little singing bowl and my Palo Santo and my candle and, all sorts of special stuff. And it's like my special kind of altar and meditation area. And my journal was in the same stack as my books. And I kept forgetting to journal. So now if you come into my house, there's this little footstool, and on top of the footstool is my journal. It's always there because I have to walk by it and see it. And so it's automatic. And on days like maybe it fell off or I accidentally put it in stack with my books, I'll literally reach towards the stool in front of me, even though it's not there, and be like, wow, where's my journal? Like, I'm so enforced now with this habit loop because of this environmental design. Or I leave my sneakers at a certain place next to my gym bag with all my bands in it. And I leave it out so I have to see it. I have to walk by it. I didn't realize how important it was in the beginning until I tried it, and I started kind of automatically getting to this habit of setting everything up in my house to support the things that I wanted to do. So that's good. So now we're going to deep dive into identity. This is how I like to think all this that we've spoken about, the habit loop and the key principles, apply to dance. So we just talked about, choosing to be the person, the identity of who you want to be, and then the habits are supporting that. So let's say that you're out there and you've never taken a dance class before, and you're like, I want to be a dancer. And that's what you say. I want to be a dancer. I want to take a dance class, versus I am a dancer. I am a dancer who hasn't found the right class yet. And just try that on and see how that feels. So we're going to go with that. So we could talk about habit loops and break down the process of a dance move and the actual work that happens in the studio. But I don't feel like that's where the most benefit is going to come. I think talking about the identity and talking about how claiming your identity is really where the work starts. And then all the other habits follow. So that's what we're going to dive into right now. So if you want to be the person who gets up early, who meditates, who journals, who packs their dance bag, who eats healthy, who hits the gym, who gets their work done, who shows up to the studio ready to create, then you have to believe that you are the person that does all of those things. And then doing those things will require some effort, but a lot less effort if you're walking around saying, I am the person who does that. You need to take on the identity of someone who is focused on their goals, who takes time to prepare, who prioritizes physical and mental well-being, who is spiritually centered and is engaged in a creative project. This is just an example of if you are out there and you're like, I want to be that person. I want to be mentally and physically well and prioritize my fitness and get my work done and get up early and go to bed early and get good sleep, then you need to think of yourself as a person who prioritizes that, who values that. We're going to talk about value here for a second. What do you value? What are the things in your life that you're doing right now that are important to you? And are there any moments in your day where you feel like maybe people aren't valuing you or respecting you or prioritizing you? And maybe that doesn't feel great. Maybe that's not how you want to feel with your friends or with teachers or in any situation. So value is something that we get both sides of. Both sides of the coin are there all the time for us to flip. And the more time I've put into prioritizing the things that I value and that are important to me, the more I've gotten out of the effort that it's taken to accomplish those things. And then the more I end up valuing myself. Then I'm valuing myself. I'm walking around feeling like my energy is precious. My time is precious. My effort is worth something. How likely am I to waste my time on somebody who isn't worth my time? Someone who's negative, someone who's going to say passive aggressive comments and maybe kind of put me down a little bit. How likely am I to spend time in a toxic situation or waste my time at a coffee shop while people are gossiping about other people? Because I guarantee as soon as I get up and leave the room, they're going to be talking about me. And do I want to be the kind of person that is engaging in that kind of negative behavior? So when I started valuing myself more in all of these habits and prioritizing these things because I cared about my identity, and I started valuing myself more, I stopped allowing other things into my life that took my time that was not worth my effort. And it just kind of automatically makes that shift. I just have to say, if you're out there watching this right now and you're someone who's like, I want to be a dancer, but I'm overwhelmed with schoolwork and I don't have enough time in the day and I'm always exhausted when I wake up, or I feel disappointed by the events of life around me, but I'm going to stay up all night scrolling on my phone, then you have an opportunity to change that right now. This habit loop is on your side. Creating the identity that you want is take out a piece of paper right now and write down who you want to be and the things that you want to do, and ask yourself if that's the identity you want to embody every day. Because if you're saying that you're unhappy with things, but you're not willing to change anything, well, then nothing changes. If you don't change anything, nothing changes. So are you willing to maybe make a couple changes and create this identity that you know will make you happy? Or at least in the process of it, you're going to change something and realize something new about yourself that's going to bring you so much joy and excitement for the next thing. I mean, the possibilities are endless if you're willing and open-minded. The possibilities get really small when you engage in negative self-talk and go, yeah, that's not for me. Nothing ever goes my way. I'm not very lucky. There's no opportunities for me. I'm just gonna do what I've always been doing. So that's your mindset. That's up to you. If your cup is already full of all of those things that are weighing you down, there's no room to pour new information into it. There's no room to pour new habits and new things into your life. So if you're unhappy with something, pour out your cup. Go find a teacher, find a mentor, come to the studio, come hang out with me, send me a message on Instagram. Engage with people who are doing the things that you want to be doing. Go join an open soccer league at the local Y. Like, go take a cooking class. Go be around the people that embody the qualities of life that you want to embody. If your day is filled with negative people, you can make the choice to clean out your life and fill your life with the habits that are going to help support you to being the best person that you could possibly be. James Clear says that he argues that real behavior change starts with changing who you believe you are, not just what you want. And he says that every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. And don't build habits to achieve goals. Build habits to become a certain kind of person. Oh, that almost just brought me back to my long walks in the rain. My son had just gone to college. I was been running the studio for a while. This was like 4 years ago. And I was by myself, and I just felt a little lack of navigation, a little lack of a purpose or a gravity. Because it's tough. It's tough when your kid moves out. It's tough when you're on your own and you have to fill your day and build your day the way that supports you. And you're like, well, what do I even want? And I remember reading this line in there: don't build habits to achieve goals, build habits to become a certain kind of person. And I remember that moment of truth where I was like, I'm not the kind of person, I'm not a bad person, but I'm not doing the things I really wish I was doing. I really wish I was the person that did that thing, that meditated and read and journaled every day. I really wish I was the person that got up early and went to the gym and lifted and focused on her goals. I really wish I was the person that was writing and bold enough to put her ideas out. This is far before I ever thought that I would have a podcast. So to sit here today, 4 years later, I only started this idea of this podcast like a little over a year ago. To be sitting here today talking to you about the very book that inspired me is really cool. It's just, and this is a perfect example. Like oh my God, I just made that connection. I should have made that connection sooner in this, okay? I am the example that if you change small habits that are easy and you start that cue and that craving and that response and that reward, and then you stack those habits together and you build the system, the architecture of life, and not just focus on the goal, then the outcome could be far greater than you could ever imagine. This is it. This is the example. I'm sitting here on a podcast. I had the thought, I really want to write. I wasn't sure if I wanted to write a book or what I want to do. I really have a hard time engaging with Instagram for some reason. It's something I'm still working on. So like, be nice, throw me a comment or something. But I just started habits in places that didn't seem obvious to do with anything about writing. I just started cleaning up all the habits around my life that made me feel better as the person that I am. And I felt better about myself, and I started feeling better about where I was spending my time. And I wasn't spending my time in certain areas that felt like such a drag. And then like 2.5 years later, someone was like, you should have a podcast. And I started the podcast, recording from my closet, but not with camera. And something didn't activate for me. Like something wasn't there for me. Maybe it was like being in my home. I don't know what it was. And I kept trying and I kept writing, but then I just stopped recording, and then I stopped posting. And then, about a year after that, a really good friend of mine, April, was like, who's amazing podcaster, her and her husband, Buck. They're fabulous. They, are Maine famous. And she was like, you need to be on camera. And then someone else was like, KEA, you need to be on camera. And someone else was like, you need to be on camera. And it's not for any particular reason other than it activates something inside me because I'm a dancer, because I'm a performer. And then I just started writing and writing and writing. And then I was I was having a difficult time organizing my thoughts. And I was like, oh, I should habit stack. And I automatically started just habit stacking around writing. And before you know it, I came up with like 40 something episodes. We've already recorded a certain amount. We have another load that we're going to do for our next season. Like, it just started coming out of me. And I couldn't have predicted that was what my path was going to be 4 years ago when I was walking around in the rain listening to James Clear's Atomic Habits. I couldn't have predicted that, but I knew I wanted to feel different about who I was. And when I had the idea, when I had the guts to put my ideas out there and face imposter syndrome, and I don't want to be cringy or anything like that, I started being met with all of this reassurance, or not reassurance, but not this external validation for internal appreciation. It's a little Michael Bloom quote there. But I started getting affirmation from the world and from people around me that something I have to say was needed in this world and needed to be heard. And I just relied on my habits to get me through all those other feelings of nervousness. I mean, I'm still nervous right now, but I'm doing it, which means something in this habit loop is working. So if you have a dream, go out there, put it together. It might look like changing your morning meditation and your journaling and your daily reading, or getting to the gym, or picking up your paintbrush and painting, a couple strokes for 2 minutes. If you want to be a big painter, get the watercolors out, but just start somewhere and start easy. And that's what James Clear taught me. Oh my God, I have to meet him. Okay. So now I'm super excited. We now understand that habits are like this fabric of our lives, this infrastructure, right? This scaffolding that holds us up and holds up everything that we are trying to do and accomplish throughout the day. And making them into rituals, which is the base of the word spirituality, means for me that I'm bringing a certain amount of honor and respect into all of the things that I'm doing in my day to myself with intention automatically. So I'm living on this kind of higher plane of caring and valuing where I put my energy and my time and what I'm showing up for in that day, even if it's not just for me, if it's for other people, to help other people. I'm starting to see where I am, showing up at my best version, my best self, or at least trying my best. I know I've tried my best. So by the end of the day, when I go home and I lay my head on my pillow, regardless of whether I accomplished my goals or got to all the tasks on my to-do list or had a great workout, or maybe I had a really crappy workout, I have this kind of automatic rhythm that's running through me that I'm relying on, that I know I did the best I could. I was the best person I could be. And that is a sense of peace and comfort that I found throughout this process. That goes along with something that's really important to understand today, is that taking care of yourself is not selfish. You need to put yourself first. If you don't get enough sleep, you don't drink enough water, you don't eat enough healthy food, you're going to feel miserable and you won't be able to be of service or be helpful to anybody else. Self-care is a word that's thrown around in the same category that they throw around self-talk. And I choose to look at taking care of my daily life through habits as important as self-care. Taking care of yourself is self-care. It is not selfish. And we can't show up to our day and do the things that we want to do and help the people that we want to help or be there for our family or our friends if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we haven't done the things that we require as humans, like sleep and water and, being hydrated and eating really healthy food and getting some exercise. Like those are very, very basic things that we all need in order to show up and be present and be available. I think getting into a rhythm where you understand that self-care is essential and that your habits are building your self-care routines, whatever you're doing in the morning, however you're taking care of yourself at the end of the day. These are sort of agreements that you might consider making with yourself. That if I'm not happy with how things are going in my life, and I now know that I need to make a change, does it come down to making this agreement to bring these rituals into my everyday life and honor this time with myself? And when I do that, am I now capable of not only improving in my own personal life, but being a better person in other people's lives? Just something to think about. I like to question, and I like to say I'm curious about things instead of judge them or, tell you what you need to do. I can only offer what has helped me and what my experience, strength, and hope dictates as beneficial. So that's it for part one of our habits episode today. Make sure to stay tuned for part two, where I deep dive into all of my personal routines from morning, noon to evening, including post dance recovery. I'm so excited to share with you the juicy habit stacking that you can take as a template and apply to your daily life to get real results today. I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. Remember for today that you are beautiful, you are worth it, and to go have a good day.